Kathy, you want to do roll call, please?
Councilmember Zerving? Here. Councilmember Pamela?
Here.
Councilmember Benson?
Here.
Councilmember Haight?
Here.
Councilmember Masters?
Yes.
Councilmember Pruitt?
Here.
Mayor Fisher?
Here.
Okay, amendments to the agenda. We have two presentations, but one person isn't here right now, so whenever he comes, he'll make his presentation. That would be Jess Zerfing, and then Don Haight has a presentation to make. We also need to add under new business, under C, approve the ICA contract. That would be the interim city administrator contract. Other than that, no changes.
Executive session regarding appointment of public officers and police and agents, is that going to precede contract part or?
No. And I don't even know if we're, yeah.
I didn't quite catch all of those. Did you say you were adding some presentations?
Yes, Don Haight was going to make one, and Jess Zerfing will be making one, but he's not here right now, so whenever he comes, we'll have that presentation. And we will also be adding, approve the interim city administrator contract under new business.
Have we seen the contract? Do we have that?
Yes, we have it here.
Was there an effort made to get that to me electronically?
I'm not sure if it was or not. I don't know. Okay. I think it just came to the mayor. Yeah, okay. Okay. Mary Ann's going to ship you one here in just a minute.
Oh, it's going to come in my email now?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's in the mayor. Okay. All right, so they're working on that.
I would just request the opportunity to review the contract once I receive it. Or if you want to go on, I won't be able to vote on it if I haven't reviewed it.
Okay. That being said, we'll go on to presentations.
Okay, I have just, it's a short presentation. This is regards to our last regular meeting. There were some questions that came up about the FEMA regional grant, about that we had not collected the matching fund from the Hood River 911. And it was a comment that everything was finished on the grant. Well, that's not true. The grant is not completed. The sheriff's office is still waiting for a number of facts regarding this project. And I'll cover a few of them here, not all of them, but a few of them. Our former mayor, Brad Lorang, can confirm that Cascade Locks, by signing the contract, is fully responsible for a satisfactory completion of this project, as his signature is on the grant confirmation dated 4/14/2010. This document authorized Cascade Locks to accept this grant and be fully responsible for the successful completion with all reports and permits provided. This $485,240 project is not complete. The Hood River County Legal Counsel will confirm this. Their legal counsel has contacted our city attorney in order to resolve the outstanding issues. Again, we have a lot of hidden costs surfacing because the last administration didn't follow up on this contract. This is not all of the problems we have, it's partial. Functionality and performance of equipment. Middle Mountain and Augsburg Link has been failing as often as every 20 minutes. As of tonight, they say it has worked for 2 days. They just replaced some of the equipment. Installation of equipment. Permits were not obtained and inspections not done. This must be taken care of. There are still legal questions regarding the towers that must be clarified. Emergency communication system study. Under the terms of the IGA, Cascade Locks is fully responsible for providing these studies. They have not been done. I'd like to read a couple facts, and these are all available for anyone who wants to look at them. This is from the IGA, paragraph 2.3. The project and commitment of agency matching funds are contingent upon the parties' mutual acceptance of the results of an emergency communication system study prepared by a qualified consultant in response to a request for a proposal to be prepared and issued by the City of Cascade Locks, and mutual agreement on how future upgrades, maintenance, and replacement costs to be identified in the study will be funded and paid for by all parties. This study was supposed to have been done before the project started. If they're not satisfied with this study, they can back out of this contract. This has not been done. As far as the permits, this is a letter dated August 18th, 2011, to Sheriff Wampler. To date, I have not been requested to perform any inspections of installations, communication towers by the permit holders, City of Cascade Locks. I have inquired on several occasions with Jeff Pritchard as to the status of the project, and he informed me that there are still some problems. In order to close out this permit with an approval, I will need the following to occur. City of Cascade Locks to request a final inspection, provide access to the site, provide verification of the cable size and type used, provide verification of anchor plates used, provide verification for the cable tower connections, how is it connected, obtain additional permits and inspection for fuel gas piping installed to service the backup generator. In regards to the second installation in question at Middle Mountain site, there were never any permits obtained from this office to attach additional equipment to this existing tower. And it goes on and says what they have to do in that case. I'd like to read a letter from our former attorney, Jordan and Schrader. This is replying to a letter that Bernard Seeger sent to the attorney. He asked several questions. This is the question he asked the attorney. Will each of the participants in the FEMA grant secured by Cascade Locks, grant such and such, share in the liability? I'll read his answer. It is my opinion that the City of Cascade Locks, as the regional host, is solely responsible for the grant. As the regional host that makes application for the grant, the city assumes the liability that accompanies the grant. This project is not complete by a long shot. That's all I have.
Next, we have comments by the general public. And before that starts, I'm going to read from our council. There's been questions raised about public comments, and I'm just going to read what it says from our council rules. This is the time for citizen participation during which citizens may comment on non-agenda issues, except with respect to matters that are the subject of a public hearing. Members of the public desiring to address the council must first be recognized by the presiding officer and then state their name and address for the record. Each person will have up to 5 minutes to present their comments. Groups with like comments will be asked to choose a spokesperson who will present their joint remarks. If additional time is needed, the presiding officer may determine the need and additional time limit. The council may not take action on any item under comments by general public and government officials, but may ask questions for clarification and, with consensus of council, direct staff to report back on the matter at a subsequent meeting. That being said, when you get up, say who you are, and address your comments to the public, to the council as a whole, not any one individual, and you will not be allowed to get up a second time, except for on other things that are on the agenda. So please don't sit back down and think you're going to get back up and be able to speak again. That being said, public comments are now open. Cody?
Okay, I've got 3 issues here tonight, council. One is, I'm gonna go ahead and turn in my report for the City Services Committee, as well as the minutes for July 6th. And our minutes for the last meeting are not done at this time, or they haven't been approved yet, so I will hold those off. But I don't know, with this committee on hold, I have a resolution that tells me that I have to turn these in at the next council meeting. I'm unaware what to do, so I'm just gonna do it in a written form. The second issue is, I sent you an email stating my opinion that the committee had been stopped unjustly and without legal reason. Yet I do not see this committee as an agenda item, and I question the reason as to why. I see information that has no legal standing concerning anything to do with this committee in the council packet, but no agenda item. I inquired about this and when told it was made a part of the public record, which I object to, and I will show you it has no relevancy under the law. The committee has met the requirements of law, as my email to all the council clearly shows. Article 1, Section 8 of the Oregon Constitution states no law shall be passed restraining the free expression or opinion or restricting the free right to speech, write or print freely on any subject matter whatever. The Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution states no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Then we have higher U.S. constitutional rights for these very subject matters, which need not go beyond our states at this time. Each and every citizen has a political, social, and economical right that belongs to the citizens of the state and to all the people. That previous statement is written using the legal definition of liberty. Yet this committee is being stopped by those, in my opinion, who are deliberately subverting the democratic process, obstructing this legislative body, and unlawfully destructing this council for political purposes. In failure of this committee not being an agenda item in this meeting for exercise of my constitutional rights, because others believe or do not know we hold these rights, further entering evidence in the record of the council packet without this being an agenda item borders on violating my rights to due process of law, as well as the rights of all committee members and the committee along with the city of its own accord. This council is treating this matter as if I have committed a crime or violated some other constitutional rights which I have not. This is not only punishing me for a crime I have not committed, but it punishes this entire committee for me. Why? Because others are taking my right to express my opinion in written form and taking it entirely out of context and trying to use it against me. When the fact of the matter is, this council cannot consider that as evidence, as it was not done as a member of the committee, but as a citizen under a constitutionally protected right. I object to use of not only evidence entered into record about me without the opportunity to defend myself, but other citizens' freedom of expression that were used against me that were totally taken out of context as well, as they have no relevancy to my serving on this committee or this committee in any way. I ask this council to charge me with a crime, order a public hearing to fulfill the requirements of due process of law I am guaranteed under the Constitution, or let this committee carry on doing the business for the city. The way I see it is this council is putting out fire after fire left to you by previous councils. Now they have been subverting the democratic process and the seating of this council that took them out of power. I have them on video, and what I see is committing the crime of coercion to try to get you to commit unlawful acts, to sway your decisions, and to coerce this council by threatening to recall someone. If not, they do not do as you want, they wanted you to sway your vote, which is coercion under the law, by definition. Well, now they have the recall, as you did not bow down to their blackmail and coercion, and I, as a citizen, commend all of you. But one. Now, committee members are appointed by the mayor as reflected in Resolution 1189. Committee members are not appointed based on popularity. They are appointed based on a social, appointed based on a social status within the community. They are not appointed because they exercise their constitutional rights and others disagree when a citizen exercises those rights. Committees are appointed on their qualifications that could directly benefit the city as well as the best interests based on the qualifications of a citizen to serve on this committee. Every member of this council has been sent my qualifications to take any doubt you may have about my qualifications to serve on this committee. His qualifications include enough but not all of my higher degrees, certificates, and license and brief work history, which I seriously doubt any citizen in the city holds, which is directly connected to the intent and purpose of this committee, being utilities, as you saw. Can I continue?
How much more do you have?
About a page and a half.
Can you get it to a very
Right,
fine point, please? I'm just really concerned if we do that,
Okay.
then everybody else is going to take off. Can you just give a final statement, a final one-sentence statement, please?
Yes, I feel that there's so much going on. You got the setting of the rates that's due. I will enter the memorandum dated May 10th, 2010 into the record. You already have my emails that went to the Volunteers Association. I have another email here that went to from Brad Lorraine. And I also would like to talk about ordinance 361 and the resolution 1000 that's going to come before it, and that ordinance 361 has repealed that ordinance for that resolution.
Thank you, Cody.
And I'll get this to Kathy in a minute.
All right, thank you. Shauna?
First, I have one, Shauna Hasel, Cascade Locks resident. First, I have one public announcement that the Truth and Consequences Recall Rally will be held at the Port Pavilion August 30th at 7 p.m. Second, as Senator Ron Wyden stated very recently, you do not cut your way out of a recession. You plan for smart growth and the development of jobs. Cutting is a simple-minded solution that will hurt more in the long run. Obama took office amid a financial crisis with the nation weighed down by ballooning debts and deficits, and at a time of unprecedented political dysfunction in Washington. Quoting the magazine The Week, August 17th, 2011, these things weren't his fault, but through his decisions, he made them all worse. But through his decisions, he made them all worse. I'd like us all to think deeply about that. Right now, what's keeping him afloat is that the majority of voters believe he's a strong leader. Funny, our little community is just a microcosm, a snapshot of what's going on throughout this country. Going to add one third thing. I think it's very cowardly to attack two subject matter experts that are not here to defend themselves.
Larry?
Larry Trammell, 90 Riverview Drive. When I first wrote this letter, I was going to applaud both the council and EMS for sitting down and working to find out remedies for the concerns that we have. Thank the EMS and fire department for people who are working to help the community through the people who are here. And in my last few days, I've changed that a little bit. They are the Cascade Locks Volunteer Fire Department EMS. They're based on the military system of captain, lieutenant, etc. So in the Army, when you're in the Army, the captain goes down, the lieutenant steps up, or the sergeant, etc. They know how to take care of the lead and go on with it. Former Fire Chief Pritchard has shown his leadership capabilities. He doesn't follow the chain of command. 1, he misappropriated the funds approved by the previous council, mayor, administrator. Refused to bring reports to this council. 3, he misled the community. 4, he went to the newspaper instead of bringing his first to the mayor and the council when he resigned. I believe that under proper leadership, when Chief Pritchard stepped down, the proper chain of command of Cascade Locks Fire EMS would commence, and we would have not had a problem. Instead, they locked out the volunteers, discussed the problem with the community, and they went off to the newspapers. A volunteer chain of command is governed by council or commission. You're working for the Cascade Locks Fire EMS department. Your chain of command is the mayor and the city council. Remember, you are community people helping community people. This problem began all with the new fire hall I feel everybody wanted. It was suggested that to build in stages, as needed. The previous council, the mayor, and administrator did not listen. A member of the community came to the previous council and told them the company he worked for, he could build cheaper. Again, they didn't listen, which put us in a hole of $450,000, which they then borrowed the money from a light fund, and it must be paid back. You have a councilman on this council who believes, no big deal, don't worry about it. But there is an ORS state statute that says that you must have it paid back within 10 years after you've borrowed it. Poor leadership and misappropriation of 9/11 fund approved by previous council, mayor, and administrator. This grant should have gone through the Hood River County Commission. Again, previous mayor, council, administrator had no control of their fire chief. This council still is trying to get reports from the Hood River and the money from Hood River County to make the payments because of all these problems, as you've heard from our councilman. The previous council, mayor, administrator put us here. They didn't pay any control on the spending of the fire chief. What the present council and budget committee had to do was to clean up mistakes that the previous council, mayor, and administrator made, to the tune of the fire department now is in the minus. His department used the general fund reserve, again making this council budget committee having a shortfall of money and a balancing the budget with cuts. If there's been better decision, better monitoring by the previous council, mayor, administrator, this would not have been a problem, and we not where we are. Your council is trying to make these corrections. They are not trying to destroy your fire EMS. I do very much respect the EMS and its people. It takes a special person to go into a burning house to help the sick and the hurt. Respect is lost when you put politics in front of health and safety. Remember, you are community people helping community people. Thank you.
Randy?
Randy Mislett, Cascade Locks. Well, I'd like to add on to what Larry said. It wasn't just the last council. It's been the last two councils, maybe even 2.5, that started this whole ball rolling 6 years ago. And always in the background was, if you'll remember, was the casino. The casino was always in the background. We must build for the casino. On the part of the general administrator at that time, I just don't have enough time to administrate over the fire department. I don't have enough time to do ordnance control officer. So they got an ordnance control officer. They have a new fire chief, a paramedic that we were told we were getting. Unbeknownst to us, he was being told at the time he was hired, he would be a full-time fire chief in charge of building a fire department from the ground up. We never knew a thing about that in the beginning. That was all thrust on us later on. So, with all these lies and misinformation that have been thrown at the citizens over the years, I say this government has done a good job of trying to get it under control. And the last government was the worst as far as I'm concerned, as far as how they dealt with things. What more can you say about a newly elected mayor on the heels of seeing the initiatives that were voted in by a majority of the citizens, making the comment not more than 20 minutes after he took the oath of office? Let's not forget the people who voted against the initiatives, and boy, they didn't. They didn't at all. They went in exactly the opposite direction and spent and spent and spent, and they kicked that debt can down the road and kept on spending and spending. No concern for the majority of the citizens, and I'll bet you that this group that is so concerned with our safety is out there going, yeah, strike. That'll show this government. Go on, strike. I think they're promoting this, and I believe that those three captains that stood there and locked jet surfing your pick, you're the fiduciary responsibility here, and you picked him, and they locked him out. Kind of reminds me of what happened 30 years ago with the air traffic controllers when they went on strike. And look what the president did at that time. He fired them all. He fired every one of them, and he never let the ringleaders come back. Never. He allowed some of them to come back after they realized the errors of their ways, but he never let the ringleaders come back, and I suggested as city council that you do the same thing with the 3 counties. Do the same thing to them, and then start over. Let the other 8 volunteers make up their own mind, and if that happens, if they go with them, to me, that shows them where their loyalty lays, not with the citizens of this community who paid for their education, who paid for them to do their passion. They love this stuff. We pay for that. And for them, when push comes down to shove, for them to say, I'm going to take my precious little captain over the people that I have a fiduciary responsibility to serve, to me says it all. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
No.
Tina Tarani, Cascade Locks. There was a recent council packet that had discretionary immunity information in there for council's review not too long ago. As a citizen of this city, I'm interested in council's reasons and intentions for looking into this category and would appreciate council to respond to the citizens on this. From my perspective, it looks like council is trying to find a way to protect themselves from potential lawsuits from citizens due to the state of our current fire and EMS department and the possibility of someone getting hurt or possible loss of life or property due to the lack of a fire and EMS department. Discretionary immunity is for poor communities that only have money for essential services. I don't think the following items the city recently funded, like recreation, tourism, and museum, would be applicable as essential services. In addition, the city started out with a perfectly functioning fire EMS department until the current overly excessive budget cuts took place. So with the council looking at this option, it looks like council is trying to protect itself with only self-interest motives, and the citizens once again are being put last, if at all. Also, at the last council meeting, it was mentioned that council was looking into giving the EMS billing to the finance officer. I did a public records request on staff time cards, and over a 2-month period, the finance officer is already doing 50 to 61 hours per week, much of the time. Now, these are extra hours the council gets for free. This means with the finance officer working these great amount of extra hours unpaid, this has lowered the finance officer approximately down 7 salary range code classifications, which means that person is making $7 to $8 less per hour. And this is not taking into consideration the recent 10% salary cuts to staff by council. So technically, the finance officer would be making even less than I stated and would be even further down the salary range code classification chart. Council is already overextending this staff position by assigning too many duties that one person can do, and now you're going to add EMS billing. This is exactly what council did to our past fire chief. He was one person doing the job of 2 to 3 people. Council blames the past fire chief for getting behind in the billing, but it was 100% council's fault by removing the backup staff the fire chief had and removing additional hours from the fire chief. Now council is targeting other staff by giving them too much work that requires 2 people to do, but is forcing one person to do it. Then when something is not able to get done by that employee, council will most likely, as their record shows, blame that employee and target them and ruin their reputation, just as they have done to other past employees. Council's treatment of the staff is appalling. Your treatment of them is comparable to dogs locked in a cage, and they better not complain or ask for water, or watch out, they will be punished. Fired.
Good evening. Rob Rostock, City of Cascade Locks. I just took a look at the auditor statement for the last year, and there's been a lot of concern expressed by our council as to the financial state of our city. And I just want to read from the financial highlights. These are from the on-site Kroll auditor statement. It says, the city's assets exceeded its liabilities at June 30th, 2010 by $12,896,370 net assets. Sounds pretty good to me. The city's total debt decreased by $144,277. That was 12%. Again, that sounds great to me. closing fund balances were $1,186,114. But yet, we managed to essentially destroy our fire department. Last year, or at the beginning of this year, we started out with our fire department with a chief that was nationally recognized for his abilities. We had 20 volunteers. We had 2 volunteers waiting to go into training. About a week ago, we were down to 12 volunteers and no chief. About that time, a letter came out, and I'll read it because the council didn't want it to come out, apparently, because they had it at the last meeting, and they sat on it. And it says, Mr. Fisher, apparently didn't recognize him as mayor. Today, August 15, 2011, the Hood River County Fire Defense Board met with officers of Cascade Locks Fire Department, FDID number 0050, Captains Parrish, Webb, and Bennett. At this meeting, the captains outlined their plan for management of the fire department. The Hood River County Fire Defense Board determined that the management plan the officers presented will allow for the continuance of the mutual aid agreements with the following exceptions. The City of Cascade Locks has until August 19th to respond in writing that the City of Cascade Locks recognizes and supports a stable fire department, and also recognizes that these officers at the interim management team. In addition, the city authorizes these officers to speak for the City of Cascade Locks concerning fire and EMS operations, along with the mutual aid agreements between the County of Hood River, Oregon Department of Forestry, USFS Columbia Gorge Scenic Area. If the Hood River County Fire Defense Board authorizes the continuance of our mutual aid agreements, it will be with the express knowledge that the agreements can be terminated without notice for cause at any time the chiefs determine Cascade Locks is not fulfilling their responsibilities. The Hood River County Defense Board applauds the firefighters for putting the safety of the public above politics. At the last meeting, Sean Parrish got up here, and instead of lauding those 3 people for taking the responsibility of trying to keep their fire department together and maintain the mutual aid agreements, he was chewed up. In addition, the person who received a vote of no confidence by those volunteers was put in charge of that department, which creates a nearly impossible situation for him because he's being asked to lead a department which has given him a vote of no confidence, and it creates a terrible situation for the volunteers because they've just given this gentleman a vote of no confidence, and now he is sitting there telling them what they're going to be doing. I can't imagine why you would do that. It's just insane. So, in the interim, you've lost almost every single volunteer that you had. I think when I was over at the department earlier today, there was 4 there, including Sean Parrish, and that's it. And you have a fire chief, and I'm not sure just how you expect that to work. You have no paramedic other than one who works someplace else. So you have nobody that can dispense drugs.
Rob, your time's up. Can you come to a conclusion, please?
Anybody like to give me extra time?
I'll give you my time.
No,
You
sorry.
did that last week. You did that with this gentleman here. So I see, you'll do it for one, but you won't do it for the other. You just don't want me here. That's okay. That's fine.
Is there any more public comment, Sandra?
I never heard such a bunch of hogwash in my life, and it's really getting to be disgusting. I sat at home and watched these meetings for the last week. I've heard people that get up here and they say, I don't even watch the news, just OPB. I don't really know know what's going on, but I want to learn. Then I hear them get up here week after week after week, raking the council over the coals for things they know nothing about. Like, why haven't you collected on 911? It's absurd. I respect a good argument. I think Rob just brought up some points that deserve answers. But some of these things that have been happening are ridiculous. I'd like to, since the council doesn't always have the opportunity to do so, I'd like to respond to some of the things Rob said. And some of the things that were said before Rob. We did not have a fully functional fire department. I'm sorry, we had a fire department that was functioning in a way that was irresponsible. Irresponsible to this city. When this city has to take resources, have them begged, borrowed, and stolen from every single department in order to support one department, and then you can see financial mistakes occurring along the way, something has to be done. And nothing was done for years and years and years and years. And then there's always the threat, if we don't do things exactly like we're told to do them, somebody's going to get up and walk out, or we're going to have no volunteers. I'm really curious about all this wonderful credit that we've built up with Hood River in the last 6 years. And if this is true, what Rob just said, if this is Hood River's attitude towards Cascade Locks, after we pay our fire chief comp time, which translates into time and a half, to give 2-day training sessions, we service Highway 84, we go on trail hikes with paid personnel, the only one that does. Everybody else uses volunteers, Craig's Rats. Our ex-fire chief was a Craig's Rat, but when he got called out, he was a paid person. He was paid personnel. And an 18-hour hike, a trail rescue, translates into 27 hours of comp time. 27 hours. Now, if he doesn't take that comp time, then it translates into 27 hours of overtime. And this is part of the problem. Lots of overtime, lots of trail hikes, lots of training sessions. Then I find out that one of our captains, the one, Sean, the one that supposedly was raked over the coals, only I watched the meeting and I didn't see it that way. He had every opportunity. But as a citizen, I was more interested to find out that he's a full-time employee as an EMT for the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs and lives in Gresham. I don't like him being my fire captain. I'm sorry. We have been seeing Jeff surfing around here for literally years and have learned to respect him. And I'll tell you something. How dare they give him a vote of no confidence? How dare them? He has been loyal to this community and that fire department every single step of the way. Never did any of us who have fought some of these issues even have an inkling that Jeff had any questions. But when our city was swinging in the wind, he stepped forward. And those 3 captains would not have if he hadn't, because it was a game of chicken. You do what we tell you to do, or else hell is going to pay. Excuse my language, and that'll end it at that.
Is there any more public comment?
Brad Lorraine, Cascade Locks. Let's see. I have a letter here, which I'm going to read, which I came across today. This is, I just received a letter from the State of Washington Employment Security Department stating that my unemployment benefits will not be paid because the City of Cascade Locks is contesting my unemployment benefits. This is one more attempt to bayonet the wounded. I will appeal the decision under Washington rules, and I will tell them the truth. The facts are that I completed my contract. Take the time to read it. I was asked to do things that were illegal and that ended my contract by law. These things alone under Washington state law reinstate unemployment compensation. I have a long list of illegal and unethical requests and emails I can add to these. If you do not contact the State of Washington Unemployment Security Department within 48 hours and retract your statement and tell them I completed my contract and did not resign and that my contract ended, then I will pursue both an appeal and a civil lawsuit. The City of Cascade Locks has a pattern of illegal and unethical activities and hostile work environment practices that can be proven by me and by the staff. It will cost you millions of dollars in a lawsuit. It is time you learned that your actions have consequences. You can talk about this all night at a council meeting, but I am saying you broke the law and I will not tolerate it. What I want is a simple letter from the City of Cascade Locks to the Washington State Employment Security Department that says that Richard Carson completed his contract as specified and did not resign, no more or no less. The City Council has already spent too much money acting outside of the law and by making stupid decisions that you required your lawyers to spend hours of time on. I am willing to document the legal violations in order to reinstate my unemployment compensation, and I am ready to tell them the truth about the reality in Cascade Locks that I was forced to live with. My advice is that you take my advice. I do know the law and the best lawyers. By the way, my law firm of record is Garvey, Schubert, and Barer. They have represented me in the past in human resources cases and always served me well. I have had enough of current Cascade Locks government. I suggest you stop the stupidity and stop the expense of your stupidity. Let me put this in dollars and cents. You overspent the attorney budget settling with the previous city administrator. In this case, it will cost you a postage stamp to send a letter to the Washington State Employment Security Department stating Richard Carson's contract ended and he did not resign. I suggest you put this on your executive session immediately. We are talking about a civil lawsuit involving myself, the fire chief, and the previous city administrator. This will be cheaper than the thousands you will spend settling a class action suit with all the former employees you screwed. For the record, I never lost a legal case. I never give up. I never let a dysfunctional government cheat me. And that is signed Richard Carson. We will be requesting those aforementioned emails as they should be part of public record, and we would quite possibly be submitting our findings to the Oregon Government Ethics Commission. Thank you.
You missed the move there.
Yeah, he did. That's all right.
At the bottom of that letter, the movie Kramer versus Kramer was modeled on my life. I never knew that. You missed that little part.
That is correct.
Good.
I suggest you put this on the, okay, yes.
Okay, that's,
That's neat.
are there any more public comments? Kate?
Can you talk that?
Okay, can we have quiet in the audience, please? Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm trying not to laugh. Kate Steelman. Cascade Locks. The drama's just getting overwhelming around here. So is the cherry picking. So is the let's pick this fact and ignore this fact. Truth or consequences. I guess we've turned the town into a game show where we trade off time to people and what, by vowels? Let's pick a few facts out. The mayor, George Fisher, has spent how many hours of his own time trying to save the city school, and then how many more hours trying to start a charter school for our kids? Don Haight and his wife have done how much extra time for the sailing in this community? About the only thing the tourism is surviving on is our sailing. Mrs. Pruitt is a friend of mine. And I know the amount of work she's done in the Red Cross, at the senior potlatch, and for the food bank. hours upon hours upon hours that they don't get paid for. These people are volunteers as much as anyone else is. These people are being maligned by just a few people who are making a big drama act, who have to show up here every week and say something that they have found mysteriously the same day in the records. Wow, this is just getting too good for words. Let's remember the good parts. Let's stop throwing little bits and pieces. We have interim city administrators. We have a attorney, excuse me. We have public works taken care of. It's been 7 months. 7 months, for heaven's sakes. This is ridiculous. They're spending all their time dealing with things rather than fixing things. They're trying to fix it in spite of everybody. And I think that they should be applauded for at least that and not accused of treating the...
Forgot to show that.
Thank you. I've got nothing better to do, Sandra. Treating the employees like dogs, little games with ex-employees. I'm sorry. These people are trying really hard to do something right. Thank you.
Is there any more public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to discussion or declaration of potential conflicts of interest. I guess we'll,
Mine would be the same as last meeting. Any discussion on the structure of the fire department.
okay. Okay. Consent agenda. We have approval of the minutes of August 8th, 2011 council meeting, approval of the minutes of August 1, 2011 council meeting, ratification of the bills in the amount of $98,591.67, and approval of 2 Oregon Liquor Control Commission annual limited on-premises sales licenses for American Waterways Incorporated.
I would move to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
It's been moved by Kevin Benson, seconded by Don Haight. Is there any council discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes. We have no unfinished business, so we will move on to approve the OMI contract.
Okay. I think I'm going to take that. This is Alex. And now, I had come up with a couple of options. Did that not make it in the packet?
I don't think so.
All right, let me see if I can wing it. So the situation with the existing OMI contract is that they are proposing a 5-year extension at somewhere around $80,000, which is a price increase from the previous 5-year contract. The new 5-year contract would also include
Actually, I think, was it a 5-year contract before? I thought it was a year-to-year contract.
Well, it looked like the annual amount covered the previous 5 years. And what they would do now is that you would renegotiate that amount each year. So you'd start off at that $80,000 range and then go up each year. There is no provision that would allow the city to terminate the contract early. What the provision in the contract says is that at the end of the 5-year period, if you don't want to renew for another 5-year period, that the city would have to give 6 months' notice. The proposed amendment for the next term would reduce that 6-month notice to 4 months, which is sort of neither here nor there. In my discussion with the mayor and with the public works superintendent, the goal is to try to have the city take over management of the wastewater treatment plant. And the public works superintendent, Dave Griffin, believes that that can be done. And it wouldn't necessarily cost the city any less money, bottom line, but what the city would get out of that is that additional body who would be available for half-time or a third time to devote to public works project. In other words, we wouldn't need to allocate that entire budget amount for managing the wastewater treatment plant for that one person to do that. So from the public works superintendent's standpoint, it would be a benefit to the city to try and take over management of the wastewater treatment plant. OMI CH2M Hill is spendy, and every city whose wastewater treatment plant that they manage in the Gorge area also is feeling the pinch of having them manage their wastewater treatment plants. The public works superintendent has, in informal talks with some of the other cities, has received sort of an indication that some of the other cities might be willing to jump ship if the city of Cascade Locks does and sort of leads the way. So that takes us to today and what to do. We're not ready to jump into managing the wastewater treatment plant ourselves, but we also don't necessarily need a 5-year contract. Apparently OMI would be willing to enter into a 1-year contract with the city for $7,000 more, so it would be a premium that would have to be paid in order to just enter into a 1-year contract. The public works superintendent believes that within that 1-year period, we would have sufficient time to research the ability of the city to take over management of the wastewater treatment plant project and bring somebody on and up to speed. So really the issue before you is to go into another 5-year contract that starts at $83,000 and goes up annually, but wouldn't allow you to really get out until the end of that 5-year period, or to pay an additional premium. And I know you're all been talking about budget, and as uncomfortable as it is, but pay that additional premium up front for the 1 year, but that would allow you to get out. I was asked about being able to negotiate a different kind of a termination provision, and I know that would be very difficult. And for example, the contract that the city of Hood River had at one time with OMI, and may still have this same provision, allowed them to terminate early, but they had to pay the remaining balance of the annual base fee on a pro rata basis. So if they were to terminate at 2 years into the contract, they were still going to have to end up paying hundreds of thousands of dollars sort of as a penalty for getting out early. I guess that's sort of the price you pay for being one of the only operators in the market available to operate your wastewater treatment plant. So the decision being presented by the public works superintendent in front of you tonight is to, or his recommendation is to go with the 1-year contract with the additional $7,000, but in doing so, you would direct him with the interim city administrator to immediately begin looking into how we transfer over management of the wastewater treatment plant to in-house. The other option available to council, which is his second choice, would be the 5-year contract on the terms that they proposed. Either way, they did include a new provision that talked about potential additional costs for the city for overtime in the event of events that are called force majeure events. And those are events that are beyond the reasonable control of either party. And that's a very common clause in a commercial contract. The only problem I have with the clause as presented is that it doesn't define what force majeure is, and that would be for things where the contractor, where OMI was not negligent or should not have reasonably foreseen. So it would be a true unexpected event, like an earthquake or some other type of natural disaster.
Do you have any comments by the general public on the OMI contract? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to council discussion.
Is Mary Ann there?
Yeah, she's here. Hold on, she's coming back. Yes, she's here.
Mary Ann, this is George. Can you tell me, is there additional money budgeted for the $7,000 more for this year?
We have budgeted $83,000 per contract. So if you needed another $4,000, we'd have to find it somewhere within their budget.
Okay, so we're $4,000 short? Okay. Thank you.
How far over the base pay do they normally go, or is there any normal? The base 70?
What do you mean?
Well, with unforeseen, what they call the unforeseen things, is it, do we have any, do we know what it was last year?
I don't, unless I had time to go back and look for it, I really don't. I couldn't gauge it.
That provision definitely went in there for the unforeseen situation, dealing with the DEQ violations. Presumably that wouldn't happen again.
Because I know it was pretty big this last year, I know, it was pretty big.
Tom?
So, bringing on the extra person, that would happen not now then, wouldn't happen because there's a cost to that then too. We'd be prepping ourselves in the first year for that person and bring them on in the second year.
Right, it would be the next budget cycle that money would get allocated to that person.
Okay.
That person, as well as the costs of testing and some of the other things that person wouldn't do themselves, but that we would have to contract out for. But it's not, a day-to-day operational type of thing that would be contracted out.
And one quick is, and we're saying that we can go with a halftime or 2/3 or whatever time person it is because OMI isn't here full-time, so they're only here so many days a week.
Right.
They're not putting in 40 hours a week.
Correct, it doesn't require 40 hours a week of manpower or woman power.
Person power.
Person power.
Kevin?
So we don't have a copy of the single-year contract with us here tonight to approve, do we?
It was that amendment number 4. Yeah, it is in, oh no, it's not in your packet, that was in my materials. It increased here we go, here's the numbers for you too. It increases the base fee to $81,527. So that would be, for the 5-year contract, that would be the base fee for July 1, 2010 through June 30th, 2011. And then subsequent years' base fees would be determined on an annual basis through negotiations of the parties. If you were to do a 1-year contract, the word is that you'd be looking at more like $88,000 for the 1-year contract. If the council chose to pursue the 1-year contract tonight, there still would be something that would be brought back to you for your final review and approval with an actual dollar figure, and also addressing transition duties and so on.
This is Mr. Paul Cook. He's the person that we are looking to hire as our interim city administrator. I think he has something he wants to say about it.
My name's Paul Cook. I came out of Hood River this evening. I'm considering being your interim administrator.
A couple questions, if I may. When does the current contract with the provider terminate?
It already
It already did,
has.
June 30th.
Already has.
Yes.
What provision do you have to extend it for a period of time?
None.
None. We've already tried.
They don't want to extend on a month-to-month basis. The concern is that they would walk away.
And is there a report in your council packet that lays out what your options are, the cost of those, what the organization that would take it over, if the city were to operate it, what would that look like and what would that cost? Do you have that?
Nope.
That's kind of,
You're not paying me for this?
No.
But if I were you, I'd postpone it until you can get a complete picture. What are your options? If the city takes it over, what's the staffing pattern look like? What is the cost? What's the overhead? What are the implications? Just to take this contract with what I think are very limited benefits to your community, doesn't make good business sense to me. And the attorney may have a different opinion, but I don't see a benefit to you to do this.
Okay. So the idea is to sign a 1-year contract with these people instead of a 5-year contract, so that we will have a year to research and get all of the numbers put together. That's the purpose of a 1-year. If we sign the 5-year, then we're stuck with these guys for the next 5 years, and we don't have the option of taking it over if it's feasible for us to do it. But that's what the 1 year is for, is to do the research.
I would have hoped that we would be able to do much more research so that you could fully understand it, but I guess if you're up against the wall and that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do.
And I think one of the problems too, we had some bad problems this last year, and we had some penalties, and we can't afford to get that in that position again, which is kind of scary.
I understand.
Yeah.
And additionally, we were without a public works superintendent for a year and a half.
Exactly.
So we're still trying to get caught up.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for letting me put my nose in.
Thank you. So what is council's pleasure?
My suggestion would be to go with the 1-year contract. I think it gives us the most options. It does cost a little bit more, but I think in the long run, if we are able to take it over in 1 year, we'll save more than that over the next 4 years. So, as opposed to the 5-year contract.
So are you making that a motion? Or do we just need a consensus?
I don't know.
You could make a motion to, a consensus would be fine, and then we would do an actual motion to approve the contract. Yeah. Unless somebody wanted a motion.
Yeah, it's just a brief session. I don't know what other people think, whether they want to do the 1 or the 5.
I like the idea of the 1 year because it will give us time to do, like Mr. Cook was talking about, and I don't want to sit on it, though. I'd like to actually get those numbers so we have something to look at in a year.
I wish we had time now to look into it farther, but I think we're getting into dangerous territory without something signed. It costs us a lot more than that if we get in trouble. We have another failure.
So thus far, Mayor and Lance, Eva, Tom, Kevin, and Don have all suggested that we go with pursue a 1-year contract.
I didn't say that, but
Oh, well,
I do agree with that.
okay, sorry. I stand
I
corrected.
agree with that too. What was that that Tom said?
Tom said he didn't, but now he does, so
I hadn't said it.
he hadn't said it yet, but he does agree with it.
Okay, I think, that seems to be, the natural option here. But before we move forward, I think there has to be some sort of a plan for how we're gonna pay for that, since we don't currently have that money in our budget.
That's what we would come back with at the next meeting, so that's why we're just doing it as a consensus. Then we'll go back and present that to you at the next
I
meeting.
understand that. I'm just making that clear as part of my contribution to the consensus, that we do need to come forward with a plan for how we, what are we gonna cut now, since we have to pay 7,000 extra? Or are we gonna take it on contingency or whatever the plan is. I trust you and Mary Ann to do that.
Sorry, Mr.
Thank you.
Tiffany, I would suggest that you make a motion, a second, and have a formal vote on this. If you do it by consensus, if your contractor wants to make a bigger deal out of it, or somebody begins to question it, then you don't have that on the record. And I think you're better off to have it on the record, what your intent is, as well as a direction to staff to come back in 30 days with whatever plans you want.
It's up to the council as far as I'm concerned from a legal standpoint.
So I think we have a consensus.
Okay.
that we-
Okay, so we'll just go with a consensus then?
We can communicate that to OMI.
Okay. Okay, so there's a consensus to go pursue a one-year contract, and the attorney and staff will come
Work with OMI and come
Yeah.
back with the numbers.
Yeah, okay. Do we want to go to a break yet, or not? Okay, we're going to go to a 10-minute break.
Stephanie, could I ask before you go to break?
Sure.
Could I ask that that plan be communicated to us prior to the next council meeting?
Which,
If you have that plan together by then?
which plan would that be?
The
One we
numbers.
just had a consensus on?
For the, how to come up with the $4,000? Is that,
The overall plan for how we're gonna communicate this to OMI, as well as, how we're gonna pay for it.
I'm going to, either I or the Public Works Superintendent will contact OMI tomorrow, because we have a good working relationship with Doug Nichols. So we'll communicate that with him, and let him know that this is the direction that you want to go, and then we'll make every effort to make sure that the other information is available to you before the next council meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
okay, so we're going to go to a 10-minute break. I'll call you guys back.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh. Next thing is going to be a little awkward. I don't know.
Hello?
Hello, we're getting ready to start again. I'm going to put you on hold.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thanks, Master.
Okay, I'm going to push the button and see if you both are on. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, are you both there?
I'm here. I'm here.
All right, our meeting's back in session. Next on the agenda, we have discuss hiring an emergency medical technician. And I'll ask if there's any public comment first. Seeing none, we'll go on to council discussion. Mayor, did you want to say anything about this?
Just that it'd been brought to my attention by the fire chief and the volunteers that they felt that this was one of the first items that we needed to address, is to hire an emergency medical technician. And so we put it on the agenda for discussion. Can Mary Ann give a report on the money that's available to hire this person?
She gave us a memorandum, and I can just read it.
Okay, would you read that everyone.
Sure, the discussion, the current balance for wages in the EMS fund is estimated at $18,000. The balance in contingency is $14,356. The contingency amount can be transferred into the personnel service category and can be used for wages, and that would give you an estimated total of $32,356.
Okay.
Well, I guess we, I don't know, I guess we need to direct staff to research whether there's people available for that amount of money, or, I mean, without knowing what's available, I don't really see how we can go any further.
Sean?
So when we're looking at, emergency, are we looking at EMT or are we looking paramedic? If we're looking at paramedic, in talking to the Stevenson, the way they talked about it is that, AMR pays around, for ones just coming out of school, around $32,000. One with experience, around $50,000. And that's AMR. AMR doesn't give the benefit package that the government does. So you're looking at $32,000 as a base in there, but then when you hire somebody, that's their pay, and we have a benefit package on top of that, which is your PERS and your medicals on top of that. If you work with our city, that's another, I don't know, somewhere between 30 to 40%, isn't that? Somewhere in there. So there's no way you can hire even the minimum one out, if you're looking at paramedic. If you're looking at different levels of EMT, possibly, but I just, from what certainly staff can take a look at things, but I'm just from out there talking on the street, that's where they're at. And with us, there's gonna be the PERS and the medical along with that, which is gonna go way up over that.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Someone had suggested an intermediate, one of the previous meetings, that an intermediate was one of the ways a smaller department could go, and it's like between an EMT and a paramedic.
Right.
Yeah, an intermediate is considered advanced life support, but it's not, full spectrum. It is, it is a thing that smaller communities have come up with, to keep on board, and it's not as much schooling and that kind of thing. I don't know what they make, but we could certainly look into possibilities of that. Of course, my preference is that if we could have a paramedic somehow, that we could do that, and so I have a lot of thoughts that come to mind, because a lot of people are really caught up in a lot of the drama right now, but really we need to look at what's going on and what's going on in our future. And so I sit there immediately and I think, well, if we can get somebody on board, that doesn't mean that we're always only gonna be able to pay them that amount of money either. If we can look into levies, or, the thing is I don't know much about levies or those things. I know there's people in the audience that do. I know there's other people, but looking in the future, we're just where we're at right now. So if we can get going.
Well, it actually is, this is what we have budgeted right now, and this would be for 9 months, not for a year, because we've got, July, August is pretty much gone, and by the time we got somebody on board, September would probably be over too. So, this wouldn't be a whole annual salary, it would be for 9 months, which would bump the monthly rate up quite a bit.
If AMR is
Well-
possibly pulling people out at 32,000 starting out, and we have more money like you're talking about, I would wanna go for it.
Well, and again, that's just what I've heard, whether that's, I would, I'm just throwing that out there because that's what I've heard. I don't know that you can't do better than that. You might very well be able to do better than that.
I'm just saying that the money we have available in the budget right now is
Yeah.
36,000, and if you just divided that by 9 months, instead of 12 months, you would end up with a lot higher monthly salary.
I'm saying is when you go for the 9 months, figure it at 32 and then somewhere between 30-40% on top of that, because that's your real cost. Your real cost is all the things that are gonna be in it. And we need, one of the problems we've been having is we keep not getting real costs, and that's what throws us in the hole. So if we're gonna do it, we gotta get real costs.
So I'd like to ask Mary a question. So this amount is inclusive of benefits and
And it's wage only.
wage only.
Yeah.
So
So wages.
where's the benefit part, the 30 or 40%? Where is that budgeted?
There is amount budgeted for your PERS and your medical.
That's currently available in the budget to cover?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So we're talking about hard wage here.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, his question is, and that is in there then, somewhere. That's not in this, but there is money in the budget
Personnel
for,
services were budgeted for a full-time person, for PERS and medical, one person for medical, a single person. We did not budget for family or for spouse, okay? The medical would not go into effect for 90 days after he's hired, should he be put on full-time. And PERS would be 6 months, 600 hours, that he would be eligible at that time. So you would have approximately, depending on his hours,
all right,
5 to 6 months, depending on what you have, before he's eligible for PERS. But there is budgeted money in those areas of the budget. How much? I did not look at that, I was only told to look at it.
So we would basically, seeing that this is a 9-month, we'd have close to a $40,000 job here, roughly. Wouldn't we?
When you say 40,000.
Including benefits?
Oh, including
No,
benefits.
not including benefits.
Okay.
Because this,
Oh, I see.
this 32 would be for 9 months. So, because we've used up part of our,
It's 36. It's 36. No, it's 32.
32,356.
That's what you have left to
Yeah.
utilize, whether that be for 9 months, 8 months, 7 months, depending on that's what you have left. So if it's 7 months, you could offer him more depending on 7 individuals.
Whatever we're dividing into this
Right,
with.
correct,
Yeah,
correct.
okay.
Yeah.
It's about 43.
43, yeah.
So we'd have about 43.
Eva?
That's
Um,
correct.
Another thing that I think is important is that, because we have such a small department, I would like to see somebody, and maybe we have to work that as far as the money or whatever, but somebody that is also fire trained. At least that they're, fire trained. So I don't know, if that's gonna have any effect on that, but it was brought to me that sometimes the people that go to MR are only paramedics. And we're just so small that, I don't know what the best thing is, and maybe somebody from the fire department could do something in there.
Go ahead, Kevin.
And if we did find something, we could have them train
That's true.
on the job or whatever.
That is true, yeah, as long as that's the thing that they would have to
Do
do.
it.
Should be part of the
Yes.
job proposal or whatever that's expected.
Okay. Okay, so what is council's pleasure?
I think we should.
Tiffany,
Go ahead, Lance.
I want to apologize that I didn't, the phone's cutting out a little bit. I didn't hear all of that discussion, so if this has already been said, I'll just apologize. But I think it's a great idea. I think we should hire an EMT. It needs to be a paramedic, because those are the people that can do the advanced life support and dispense life-saving drugs. But I think this is a great step. It's one of the best things I've seen on council agenda in a long time. So thank you for putting it on there, and I think we should do it. It's just another way to stand up for the volunteers that are working hard to keep the fire department going. And I support that. Thank you.
So, do we need a consensus?
Yeah, it would be a consensus to direct the city administrator to pursue hiring an EMT along the lines that you discussed tonight. with the idea that they would train to become proficient in firefighting. And would being a paramedic be a qualification or a preferred qualification?
I would say what?
My feeling is paramedic, that's how I feel, just knowing a lot of the stuff. I think that we should try for the best. We should try for what we can get.
All right, Kevin?
And I would agree with that, but if we don't have them,
If
if
we
we
don't
have
have-
to choose between not having anybody and having an intermediate, I would rather have an intermediate than nobody
I
at all,
agree.
right?
So maybe
We
the
don't have the cash to do it.
the
Can we do-
consensus would be to get the best that we can get for the money that's in the budget,
Exactly.
the
Well,
highest
another
qualified.
thing might be that they would be at separate wages, that you could, I just don't know how you'd advertise for that. And I guess that's not my problem, but you know what I'm saying?
No, we'd have to work that out.
Yeah.
See what's out there, see who's out there, and can work with the fire department on that too.
So I would agree with that consensus too. Direct staff to research and,
Begin the hiring process.
yeah, start the
Okay.
hiring process for.
So I need a consensus from those interested in directing staff to find the best we can for the money that we have available. Eva?
Yes.
Yes.
Tom? Kevin?
Yes.
Yes.
Don, yes. George?
Yes,
Lance?
I think it has to be paramedic. I think we need to find the money to make that happen. That's the way you stand behind public safety and stand behind these volunteers. So it has, in my mind, we need to find the money to hire a paramedic, EMT.
Okay, but the consensus is for the best that we can get with the money that we have. So is that yes or no for you?
I think we need to find the money to hire a paramedic.
I feel that we need a paramedic, so I need to change that, so it's technically no, 'cause that's what
Okay.
I feel.
So, and I will say yes, so we've got 5 yeses and 2 noes. Okay. The next is the interim city administrator contract. We have, Lance, have you been able to look at that?
Not really, no. I haven't I understand the gentleman's there. I haven't met him. I haven't been told that this was gonna be on the agenda, and, I really haven't had a chance to review the contract. I think it's important that the city council has the opportunity to meet, the city administrator. I think it's important to have the opportunity to review, any kind of contract that we're entering into. So for that reason, I'm not gonna be able to participate in this decision. I apologize for that.
Okay. There are a couple changes. The city of Vernonia obviously needs to be changed to Cascade locks. And Kevin pointed out that we no longer have ordinance 150, we have ordinance 300 something. I'm sure Kathy can find out what that is in B. The attorney also had, oh yes, sorry, public comment. Go ahead.
Tina Tarani, Cascade Locks. I just have a couple questions on this, since it just came up. I'm just curious if this gentleman was one of the originals that applied back when everybody first applied? And if he's not, are there posting requirements that state the position needs to be re-advertised again?
No and no.
Any more public comment? Okay, so on, under statement of work, the attorney also has something to add for B.
For B, item B, and then what I was meaning to do was to leave a list there if you had some other things that wanted to go in there. But item B would be to provide no less than 40 hours per week of services.
Lance was doing the boogie woogie. So, for statement of work under A, we need to give a date for research and coordinate recruitment of permanent city administrator to begin work no later than, and I talked to the mayor, and he suggested maybe February 2012. That would be,
You would want to coordinate that with number 4, because I understood that earlier today that you might be looking at a 1-year contract, so I have it ending July 31, 2012.
right.
So we could change that ending date to be when the new city administrator comes on.
This, I
or-
thought this was just to coordinate recruitment, so this was just starting the recruitment process.
No, it says to begin work, for the new city
Oh,
administrator
okay.
to begin work.
Okay, I see, so, okay, so then we would
Assuming
just
you
put.
liked my July date, you would put in an August
Okay.
1 date.
Okay, I see, so then we just put in August 1st?
That's not a year. Are we looking at this being a 1-year contract, or are we looking at it being
Oh, I did it as a fiscal year,
a fiscal?
excuse me.
Okay.
And that I just pulled out of, that I thought, just from the standpoint of budgeting, that you would go until July 31st.
As part of the executive session, could we get some input from the other party as to availability and so on and so forth before we put this in here? I would like to know that at least.
Okay. I don't know, were we gonna discuss this in executive
Good idea.
session? We have
know.
employment of public officers,
Right, but I think, I'm not sure that's to discuss and
contract.
negotiate the contract.
Or did you, I mean, did you wanna leave that open for George to negotiate? Or what did you wanna do?
Well,
Cause I don't think we have that noticed,
I don't have
honestly.
a problem with that, but I don't have a, I would kind of like to know the term of the agreement too.
The term of the agreement, what?
The term of the agreement,
Yeah, I don't think you can talk about that in executive session.
contract.
Well, for example, you cannot discuss the salary in executive session in connection with the hiring of that officer. It really is to consider the qualifications. It's not so much to consider the terms of the contract.
Can we set this over till after the executive session? Considering the contract?
That's up to you to move an agenda.
What,
item.
okay, what are you expecting to happen in the, executive session?
Well,
Sorry.
I was thinking that we would have a discussion with, Paul.
Okay, so we wanna move this to after the executive session then? Okay, so we're gonna move the contract to the after the executive session. We're gonna go on to mayor and council comments. Eva, do you have anything? Eva,
I'm thinking for a second.
okay.
When I came on being, to be a counselor, when I came up here, I expected that I'd have a big network of people. And the thing is that the network is really, really hard, it's really, really crumbled, so to speak, and there's no breaks since I've been here, there's no breaks. And, so I sit there and I try to hang in, and I am trying to hang in because I have a really big sense of duty to my community. But I'm also just a person, I'm not a miracle worker. And gosh, the prospects of what's coming up in the future are really tough for me too. And I am one of the people. And as well as everybody else up here. So, you know, I say this over and over again, people have got to give. People have to work together. Because if they don't, then we will crumble. And maybe somebody will have a high five for a couple minutes. But in the end, what did we win? What what did we win? Is it gonna take the whole destruction of our whole government, our volunteers and everybody's just so stressed out they can't do anything? Then what are you gonna do? And, you know, here's the thing, I'm so stressed out, but gosh, I can't quit right now. And, but it's just hard, and I want everybody to pull together, because you know what, you have a responsibility to me too. I'm not alone up here, these guys aren't alone up here. And even a group of 7 people, plus the staff, thank God for the staff, but the staff is stressed out too. It's just really difficult. I'm just asking somebody to give somewhere, somebody to think about the other person, and not just their own political, personal, absolute stance.
Tom?
Well, I guess the same thing too, is we've obviously got some tough issues in the community, and my argument is still, it's about money. It's all about money, but there's, in politics, and that's part of what this is I mean, you go to any college in the country, and they got a whole group of people in there that's all political scientists. I mean, they study, they work at this thing, it goes, it's huge, it's big money, and it's big everywhere. And a lot of times the idea of politics and the political movement is you got black and white, and they're, part of what they're doing is convince you that white is black and black is white. And in what's been happening here, as I see it, is it's been going on here pretty well. And from the political side, it's happened really well. They've pushed it really well, and in my opinion, they have convinced lots of people that black is white and white is black. But in reality, black is just, you just got to remember, the black is black and white is white. So what the citizens have to do, and that's what you're stuck with, citizens, you really have to inform yourself. Because my argument out here is this is what the council's been doing has been a financial issue. And it continues to be a financial issue. But there's an argument out there that, and that's what politics does too. Politics 101 is to make it emotional. That's happened really well here. Politics 101 is to create a villain, and that's happened real well here. So the politics that's running here is following all the training of all the best schools in the country of how to push your agenda. But my argument is still keep looking at the money side of it, because that is the issue. Keep following the money side of it, and even in my look, and I'm having a hard time with it. But there are things that I'm finding maybe something maybe a different way than even I thought it was. But I'm going to continue to pursue it and try to follow this thing down the course of where it goes. But I'm trying to make all of my decisions for the town as trying to be fiscally responsible for it, and try to keep as much of the emotions out of it. Although I have got emotional on it, although I've gotten political about it, I'm attempting to try to keep as much of that out of it as I can, and try to stay on course from the financial side of it. Because there is an issue here in town, there obviously is, and my argument is that it's financial, and we need to keep plugging away at that until we get it right. So that's where I'm at. But, and I just want to say also that from the political side of it again, I guess, but it seems odd that the head of the fire group for the county or for the district or whatever it is would, when we had issues, when we had a problem, we had a chief that quit, sent us a letter and demanded us to show him the chief and show him something that didn't come down and say, man, you guys got a problem here. What can we do to help you out with it? It wasn't that. It was a letter that says, you know, Mr. Mayor, I expect you to give me a chief, and we're going to look at the chief and decide if that chief is adequate for us. And then the same person turns around and sends another letter and says, well, 3 people showed up in here and we're accepting them. And before a letter came from the mayor or from anybody else or from this process that everybody expects to do, those people up there understand chain of command. And that's why a letter was sent to the mayor. And then all of a sudden, chain of command went out the window on the very letter that Brad wrote. It wasn't anything that had to do with, hey, I haven't heard from the mayor, what's going on? It was, hey, we picked these guys and this is what you're getting. It just seems odd that's going on. And so those things, I'm trying to work that stuff out here too, because I look at that as being, or in my belief, possibly part of the political side of this. And that's, yeah, it just seems odd to me.
Tom? Don?
I just ditto what Eva said.
Lance, do you have anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, I've mentioned in the last couple of council meetings, I'm concerned about our mutual aid agreements. And I'm concerned that we haven't taken action to protect them. Does anyone there know if we still have mutual aid with the departments in Hood River?
We haven't received any formal communication that I'm aware of stating otherwise.
So have you read the letter from July that said we had until August 19th?
Yes, and that
Okay, so August 19th is passed, correct?
right, and we sent the letter last week responding to that letter, which is in your packet.
Right, and I got those emails, and I thank you. I just wanted to say, I'm glad you're there, Alex, because I wanted to say thank you to you and Jess and George for getting those out right away. I thought that was important. I'm looking in my inbox from this evening. It appears that we have some correspondence over email from Jim Trammell, who's the Fire Defense Board, or Fire Board Defense Chief. And what he says there is, on August 19th, the Defense Board met with Chief Zerfing and listened to his presentation. He was unaware of the leave of absence resignations. He was directed by the Defense Board to get confirmation from the mayor that he could reinstate the captains that spoke to us on Monday, or how he was going to meet the responsibilities of his position. He stated he would comply to that request that day. We have yet to receive any correspondence from him. If he is the chief, it is his responsibility to direct his department and prove the department's ability to perform. In answer to your question, we did receive 2 letters, which I believe, Alex, those are the ones you referred to, as requested. But this is another situation considering the departure of most of your firefighters. And then there was another email in which he says, at our meeting with Jess on Friday, the chiefs gave Jess direction on some items the Defense Board would need in order to extend the termination of the mutual aid agreement. The mayor called me at home on Friday, said that a letter from Jess was sent, and asked if it was what we were looking for. I told the mayor I would accept his word that the letter was sent. Today, Monday, August 22, 2011, there is no letter from Jess. The chiefs have tried extremely hard to leave all avenues of communication open in an effort not to take the steps outlined in our termination notice, which is the letter, of course, that we were referring to earlier. If I do not have, it goes on to say, if I do not have the required information by noon today, I will have to inform the Fire Defense Board of the city's non-compliance with their request. And then there's and that's at 9:21 a.m. this morning, and there's a follow-up email where at 1:50 where he indicates that he is still waiting, or that he hasn't received that letter. So
I think there was some confusion between the mayor and Trammell regarding what letter needed to come, because there was the letter from Chief Surfing that did go out last week. So I think we need to get Trammell and the mayor have in a discussion directly to sort out what letters and what assurances they need. I haven't seen any of those emails today.
I haven't either. George, have you?
Well, at 11:35, he wrote that he received 2 letters as requested, but there's another situation that considering the departure of most of the firefighters in town. So if the deadline was noon today, does anyone know, did Jess meet that deadline? Did we meet that deadline, or have our mutual aid agreements been terminated?
Mayor, did you?
Well, we haven't had notification that the mutual aid agreements have been terminated, so tomorrow I'll get in contact with Jim and find out exactly what he needs and get with Jess and get that information to him. So.
Okay, so we're gonna assume,
To my knowledge, they haven't sent us anything stating that the mutual aid agreement's been terminated.
Yeah, okay.
So, and he had gave me his assurance that he would work with us to try to get through this, our difficult time, and that he wouldn't leave us out there hanging. So I'll get back in touch with him tomorrow and try to get this resolved and we'll carry on from that point. Lance?
Okay, well, thank you for that, George, and I also wanted to say thank you to Mr. Trammell for the work he's doing to, he's kind of extending the deadline, and I want to reiterate, it's important that we take the necessary actions to allow us to continue to have a mutual aid agreement with other departments in Hood River County. I think that's another way we can stand behind the firefighters of our city that protect us. It's another way we can add to public safety.
Councilor Masters, we also received a letter this evening, which I think we'll need to copy and send out to the rest of the councilors from the volunteers, also requesting that the city council and the mayor work with them to address the issues related to the vote of no confidence. And I was going to recommend that the mayor respond to them by the deadline tomorrow, saying that he's already been directed to address that particular issue. So it's really just a question of figuring out when people can start sitting down together and talking around people's various schedules.
Yes, I agree with that, and I hope that we won't take any more actions that lead to more resignations from our firefighters, because that puts everyone at risk. So the more we can build up, I think, the better, and I stand behind that.
Are you done then?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to state, at the last meeting, there was a, Councilmember Haight requested that we all vote to find out information on the FEMA grant, and I gave a negative vote because I explained myself that there were a couple of things on there that we didn't need to look at, and it's really hard for me to make decisions like that without having the paperwork in front of me. So I would ask that when people want to do those sorts of things to get me a copy before I have to make a decision. After having looked at the requests that he had made, I saw that there were really only a couple of things that I didn't agree with, and I apologize to Mr. Haight for not regarding the time that he spent put into this. He's very serious about this FEMA grant, and I just hope he can accept my apologies. I would also like to say that, there's been a lot of work by a lot of people to try and maintain a level of service for the city. The mayor's been out with a knee surgery. We haven't had a city administrator for a couple of months, and it's been a lot of work. And I would hope that people would recognize that that this council has been really working very hard for you. George, it's your turn.
Okay. The first thing that I would like to say is I want to commend all the council members for their hard work and their diligence maintain the services and the quality of services to the public. You know, they've all been working hard, and I know that they've been working hard since I haven't been there as much because of my knee, so, and, you know, but in the near future, I will be getting healed up, and I will be back to helping out again. I believe that Paul Cook, who's going to be our new interim city administrator, is a person of high esteem. I've called his past employers and had nothing but the highest of praise of him and of his talents and of his abilities. Therefore, I gave him I gave him the vote to be our city administrator in the interim. And I think that he'll be a very valuable asset to the city. He will bring the city a sense of stability, which is what the city needs right now. His experience and past work history is exemplary. I believe with his counsel that we will do very well. Next, I would like to mention that I would like to challenge everyone in the city to start working together to try to form a sense of unity within the community to try to get these items taken care of that seem to be problems for some people. We all need to work together. We need to strive to be positive with each other, to be positive with the council, and to be positive with all people within the community. It needs to be, we need to have a sense of team together so that we're all working on the same mission. We all have the same goal. And the goal is that we want the best that we can get for the community for what we can afford. And anyway, I want people to know that. There's also, at this time, I'd like to also mention, and I could have Tiffany read it, that there will be a press release that will be sent out to the press. And at this time, Tiffany, if you want to read that press release.
Okay. At a special meeting on August 15th, 2011, the City Council of the City of Cascade Locks affirmed that Jess Zerfing remains the acting fire chief for the Cascade Locks Fire Department. No resignation was received by the city from Zerfing prior to that date, and at the council meeting, Zerfing expressed his desire to remain in the position until a permanent replacement could be hired. The City Council declined to recognize volunteers Parrish, Webb, and Bennett as co-captains of the fire department because they lacked legal authority to be appointed to those positions by the Volunteer Association. Only the City Council, City Administrator, or Acting Fire Chief has the authority to appoint officers to the fire department. The council directed the mayor to work with Acting Chief Zerfing and the volunteers to respond to the concerns of the city's mutual aid partners. The mayor has sent letters to Chief Trammell and the volunteers expressing the city council's desire to have the fire department and volunteers work together to meet the city and its mutual aid partners' safety needs. The mayor is also actively working to ease relations between Acting Chief Zerfing and the volunteers. Meetings between the mayor, volunteers, acting chief, state fire marshal, and Hood River County partners are planned. The mayor will make addressing the August 22nd, 2011 letter from the volunteers a priority, as will the city council. The city has also received a number of letters from volunteers indicating they intend to take leaves of absence at the same time for similar reasons. The city council is dismayed that actions like these continue to take place, putting the city's ability to act as a responsible mutual aid partner at risk. The mayor and acting chief will be investigating this issue as well.
Thank you.
So are you done, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go on to staff notes. We'll start with Kathy, she usually doesn't have anything. Okay, so,
It's on to me.
yep.
I was just going to add a little bit more information to Counselor Haight's presentation regarding the FEMA grant and the day wireless contract, because I have been directed to look into some specific issues that he raised. And then also I had received a letter from the county addressing their concerns with respect to the contract. I spoke directly with the project manager for the day wireless contract, and back in June, former Chief Pritchard had signed off on what is called substantial completion of that particular contract. In other words, basically accepted the work under the contract as being complete, and there was a punch list of a few items that remained that needed to be done. Those have been completed, to my understanding, from what this Randy Kruger told me. Of course, one of those outstanding issues had to do with the functionality and this problem with the transmission between Augsburger and Middle Mountain. And as Councilor Haight reported today, Day Wireless last Friday actually put in a new microwave dish on Augsburger Mountain to address the problem. I asked him if they felt, how they felt, whether that was sort of some kind of an experiment to see if that was going to work, or if they, I'm being attacked by bugs, excuse me, or if they felt that that was something that was going to resolve the issue, and they felt that they were 99.9% sure that that was the missing piece to making this whole thing work. So that went in on Friday, and we received, I received an email this morning saying that the new diversity antenna at Augsburger seems to have done its job. The Middle Mountain link ran without failure through the weekend. It reacted to the same atmospherics as is experienced in the past, but survived them this time. We will let the system run for a couple of weeks. If no new issues arise, then we will proceed with the diversity antenna at Cascade Locks and a few other things that they needed to get done. So on the contract administration side, we're coming to an end. With respect to the county's concerns, one of them had to do with a building permit not having been obtained for the work on the tower owned by U.S. Cellular, and the county provided me with a filled out copy of a building permit application. So all that is really going to require is somebody from the city to sign it and take it to the building department with the appropriate check, and that completes their file. There's nothing else that needs to be done on that, but they want that piece of paperwork. And that was provided directly by the attorney for the county. Then the last issue that was addressed in her letter had to do with the ongoing maintenance and upgrade of the equipment, this emergency communications system study. And it's not, what she indicated, representing the 911 district as well as the county, is that it's currently not a deal breaker with respect to the intergovernmental agreement. So it was my understanding from my conversation with her that because we don't have this system study done, doesn't mean that the county is not going to pay their share under the IGA. There's some other conditions in the IGA that need to be met in terms of finishing up the project, after which the county will pay their share. So on the grant administration side, I'll be working with the mayor to continue to wrap that up and get that package tied up so that we can get the money from the county. With respect to the emergency communication system study, there already was built into the Day Wireless contract and the money that's been paid to them a 5-year warranty, which means that if anything does go wrong, they come out and fix it. So this RFP, it really was going to be designed to address what happens when the end of that 5-year period hits and we're on our own. How are we going to fund maintenance and how are we going to address system upgrades and so on that no doubt will be needed by then. So county council felt that perhaps one of the best ways to address that right now would be for a meeting of all of the IGA members to figure out how we want to proceed. So there's an opportunity to still work with the remaining IGA partners to get that part done. And maybe that would just require an amendment to the IGA at some point in the future. So in response to Don Haight's specific questions, he asked for confirmation as to whether the previous council and city attorney had reviewed the FEMA application and the contract before accepting. And as I think he mentioned, or as you may be aware, the FEMA application was put in by former Chief Pritchard, and I went back and read through the minutes, technically without council approval, and it was sort of done during a time when the money was available and there was momentum over on the 911 side to grab the money when they could. But in any case, the answer is there was no city council authorization to proceed with that. And it's kind of water under the bridge because here we are today, we have the grant, and the city of Cascade Locks is the grant recipient. And the day construction contract was drafted by this previous city attorney, so I'm assuming that that was reviewed by the previous attorney and would have had to have been approved by council. Financial and operational liabilities, long-term and short-term. With respect to specific obligations right now, working on that information with respect to the long-term liabilities, Councilor Haight addressed that earlier. Under the intergovernmental agreement, the city of Cascade Locks is responsible for the grant. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we close out the grant in accordance with the grant documents, so that there is no liability that attaches back to city funds for any of this project. A request was made for progress reports from Day, and since substantial completion had been signed off on back in June, no further progress reports were coming from Day, and apparently they were fairly informal communications between Day and former Chief Pritchard. So the short email that I got today was the progress report that I asked for from Day to update the council on the functionality issue and the remaining items on the punch list. Has the system acceptance test plan been submitted and accepted? Yes, that was done, and it was accepted, hence the June sign-off by former Chief Pritchard. And then the last question was, why was Cascade Locks selected as the lead agency? And it really wasn't that we were selected. We self-selected ourselves by former Chief Pritchard having been the applicant for the grant on behalf of the city of Cascade Locks. So that's where we're at today.
Thank you.
Did I have anything else? I think that was all I was supposed to speak on.
Okay, that being said, there's no televised workshop session. We're going to be going into executive sessions per ORS 192-6602A, employment of public officers, employees, and agents, and H, legal counsel. So I will, do you guys want me to call you back in a few minutes? Or do you want to, actually, I think, are we going to leave Betty here? No? Are we going to take a decision on the contract? On the contract?
Can I rewrite it and give it to you tomorrow morning? Because I
copy of the letter from the volunteers that you cited.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's,
I'd have to wait for that. Well, actually, you can have one copy.
Where are all the books?
No, I think the
Well, I don't
window's
have to make a
open.
full record to you reveal on the spot. I'm just asking if you want to keep copy. So you